Well, good morning. Give us a roll call, please, Jen.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, here, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt,
Here.
Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.
Good morning.
Good morning, Martin Charlo, Len Tucci, Lenny Strahan.
Bing, would you give us a prayer this morning? Thank you.
I'm School Suiton. We thank you, Creator, for your blessings that you give us today. We thank you, Father, for watching over our children and our grandchildren and our elders, Father. We thank you for all you do for them. We thank you, Father, for blessing this day, especially for me and my wife. It's our 55th anniversary today, and I just bless you. Thank you for that blessing, Lord. And I just thank you for watching over everybody today and keeping them safe, keeping them well, especially the Whitworth family for their loss of their brother and their uncle, Father Lord. And we just thank you for everything that you do and give us a direction today on the issues that we are faced with here today at council, Father Lord. And we just thank you for everything in God's name. Amen.
Congratulations there, man.
55 years.
How many?
55 years.
55.
Yeah.
Hey,
You got married young.
hey.
21 when we got married.
Yeah. We'll have to get you out here early so you can go party.
Oh, that's tonight.
Good. We do have minutes from October 8th. Take a quick look at those, please.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you. I needed to put in, I emailed Abby that I was at the Montana Budget Policy Center quarterly meeting. And then as I was reading the minutes at the end, Carol mentioned Vi. We might want to put, I'm assuming Vi Trahan. Might want to put at the end, at very last page. Carol Langford received a request from Vi regarding Clara Charlot's house. Might want to put her last name.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
Your own key.
Yep, Bing?
I just said hit your own key.
Yeah. Oh. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And in reviewing the minutes, and I was thinking more about the proposed organizational chart for records management. I'm not exactly sure how to do this, but I was trying to mention it before. I mean, there's tremendous value with comments that Len said and how the vote went because of the potential reorganization that we have pending before us. But I think, I guess what I don't know how to suggest this, or maybe it's a secondary motion when we get going here, is to limit the hiring of the organizational chart position to those that are necessary only for the digitizing of the backlog of stored materials at this point in time, because that's going to have to happen no matter what. My point in, that's, so I not knowing what's what would be, and I know we heard that they're not going to hire people. There's not something for them to do, I hope, but it would be, might be in our best interest to clarify, or the organizational chart's fine, but only fill those that are necessary at this time to do digitization efforts. And maybe that's what I could do. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other changes to the minutes? entertain a motion. Motion by Tom, second by Jennifer to accept the minutes as amended. All in favor?
I
don't. Martin, Carol, and Danielle. Martin's out. Carol, Danielle.
Yeah, I'm having phone issues. Sorry, but yes on. for me.
Okay. I believe we're unanimous. We do have an agenda for today. Anything to add? Jennifer, executive. On,
I would like to do a trip report.
Bing,
Mr. Chair, I would have one, thank you. One look.
and Danielle.
Yes.
And no walk-ins this morning. Cool. Well, I would entertain a motion. Motion by Tom to accept the agenda with additions, second by Bing. All in favor? And unanimous, so we can guess we can take him in order. We'll go out of regular into executive. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to do a trip report for attending. Martin and I attended affiliated tribes Northwest Indians annual conference last week, and I just wanted to share the highlights of some of the things I thought were really pertinent to us. We supported a couple of resolutions to bring tribes to the table on the energy grid development and improvements, especially for us as a major producer of electrons, and how we could wheel that out to the market. Also, there was a sister resolution like that for development, energy development. I thought that was real critical. That was good. There was also some pretty good presentations in relationship to the availability, once again, which this has been going on for at least a couple of years since I've been going to AT&I periodically, the increased amount of veteran support through to tribal health for services and positions. And there was also a pretty nice presentation by an agency, obscure agency, and they were promoting AT&T's first responder grant program to, put in a system for you on your existing towers that would be all comprehensive to ambulance, fire, all the first responders that we have in a whole new creative system. And that really piqued my interest, because I think our radio repeater system is pretty darn old. My brother worked on it back in the day, and I know we have a lot of blank spots, but to have one cohesive, coherent, comprehensive first responder system seemed pretty cool, and it was all free, other than you did have to have some kind of provided service from AT&T. There's the catch. But I thought it was worth looking into.
And it won't cover Campus.
Oh, it'll cover it. Didn't our tower cover Campus Prairie?
No.
Oh, it's still a shadow there. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, everything but Campus Prairie.
Yep.
Anyway, I wanted to make note of that also. The biggest thing, though, was I remember my great uncle Walter, when they first started AT&I, and it really was started up to stop the continued threat of termination of Indian reservations. And we jumped right on right away, not as original founder, but immediately thereafter, and participated because we were on that list of termination in Indian country in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, after after what happened over there with folks in Oregon. So, though there was quite a bit of, shared interest, but I think what I really saw, and Martin and I tried to run Martin as a candidate for one of the officer positions, but there's a lack of participation from our other tribes in Montana and Idaho so that we can really have a voice in our issues. And as I was talking to Coeur d'Alene tribe representative, we really need to do an effort to bring our other tribes, make sure Kootenai tribe of Idaho and the Blackfeet tribe happened to be there this time. But other tribes in Montana that participate, Crow tribe, make sure Nez Perce, all the tribes, Spokane's, everybody shows up, and we can bring more of our Upper Columbia issues to bear. And so I just want to encourage council members, if you know anybody, that try to get those folks to participate, because then I think it'd be more of a meaningful and representative organization for our interests. Anyway, I just wanted to report on that, and I'll turn it over to Martin if he has anything to report on it too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Tom. I was in the Economic Development Committee. The big thing that they're working on is they have a economic summit and fashion show coming up next weekend, the 16th and the 18th through the 18th in Portland. I'm not attending, but sounds like a great event. Also attended an MMIP panel. They're passing some resolutions concerning jails, specifically one for Washington State. And then there's a more broad one that I believe they'll be bringing to NCAI. So hopefully you guys can support that while you're down there. And yeah, it was a good learning experience, and got some people that I didn't know, and yeah, met some people. So yeah, it was a good one. I'll send something to Abby if I think of anything else. Thank you.
The other thing I might add in relationship to some of the participant tribes is that the host tribe was the Cowlitz tribe there in Richfield, north of Vancouver, and they were a good case study for me to look and meet with their council members. They are a lineal descendancy tribe, and so it was interesting to see. They first started when they first got recognized by the federal government. They were had the quarter requirement that's mandated, basically came from Big Brother federal government, and so they did institute that at first, and then they quickly went into lineal descendancy. And so it was interesting to see that and see their enrollment numbers and the effect of the tribe, and it was actually it was quite enlightening to see that. So it made a good argument for a change in enrollment policy, at least here. The last thing I want to bring up in regards to our minutes from Tuesday is I would love to be able to make a motion here to go on top of the motion on approving the organizational chart for records management, that would make the motion that those positions that aren't filled right now be limited to those necessary to fulfill the digitization of the backlog of records that we have, and not going further than that until we have fully completed our look at reorganization. And that would be my motion.
I have a question, Tom, Mike.
Go ahead, Carol.
I was wondering, after, I think I made the motion on that, and after some thought, wondering if we shouldn't just rescind until the chief executive officer gets hired, and let them make that decision. I know it'll still probably have to come in, but maybe we just rescind the action on making a department. I don't think it needs to be a department. And I've kind of thought that for a while, and I don't even know why I didn't remember to bring it up. But anyway, but I'm going to second your motion, Tom.
Well, Tom made the motion and it was seconded by Jennifer already. And it's basically to, I don't even know what the right word is, but limit the hiring within the org chart for record management to just the folks that will be doing the digitizing until council completes its review of the organizational structure. That need to add more than that? Martin?
If we could have updates, like hard scheduled updates attached to that motion of like monthly, where we're at, what we've done, where we're,
Well, this motion is about the hiring, so if we want another motion about the organizational structure and its scheduling, that would be another one.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah.
We're all- Okay, and Danielle? Okay. It's unanimous. Martin, do you want to pursue a motion to put a schedule on our review of the organizational structure?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd make a motion to have, the newly created records department report monthly on progress, well, on the amount of work needed to be done and the progress of that work and the need for staffing. And let's say the 15th or the middle of each month.
So direct reporting on the needs of the record management's office.
More of an evaluation, please. I don't want them to come in and tell us what they need. I want to see what they're doing and what the scope of the work is, and accomplishments, because it's just scanning stuff, like, I mean, we didn't put any time frame on personnel with pay scale, and it took them 2 years to have that many PDs just entered into pay scales. That was one of the holdups that for 2 years that we paid them a lot of money to do nothing.
So report basic progress, monthly report of progress within the digitizing of the documents in the record documents program. Second by Tom. All in favor?
Yeah,
Unanimous. We'll see if we can state that a little cleaner when we put it together.
Sounded good. One last thing, Mr. Chair. I noticed in the advertisement that there was a parcel of land by MDOT for sale on highest bid, minimum bid. And I would appreciate the Lands Department presenting that to us as soon as possible. I also noticed another abandonment issue. And I think what I'd really like to do is have the legal department come in next week and give us a status report on abandoned right-of-ways. And because these are abandoned right-of-ways in one of our tribal communities. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Carol.
I'm also interested in that property, so I will step back from any discussion about it.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, James.
Oh, sorry. I have a couple issues I forgot to bring up when you have the time. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, I actually thought it was, I almost thought it was Fleming's piece here. I didn't know where it was. The Pablo. I was gonna look up on my map the legal description. Gotta be that, yeah, but it's got sign on it.
The big sign there, that's for sure. Bing, you had an issue.
I do, Mr. Chair, and I think maybe I better go into an executive session on this because it's kind of a follow-up on what Carol brought up yesterday about, by Trahan and, Doug Charlo's, issue with the electrical, situation.
Well, we'll hold that for a minute and get the rest of the open stuff
Okay.
done, okay?
Mhm.
Martin, you had a different issue?
I do, thank you. I just want to make sure that people are aware of the Medicine Tree trip tomorrow. Meet down there about noon, so however long it takes you to get there. They've been starting pretty much on time the last few times. And then also the big thing is Bear Tracks Bridge Celebration Powwow is this coming Monday, Indigenous People Day, to Karis Park in Missoula. And we will have a feed at noon and grand entry at 1 p.m. Les Trahan is our head man. Myrna Dumontier is our head woman. Yaman Sood is our host. Gabby Carell is our MC. And we're doing about 1 to 5, the time frame. So come out and enjoy the powwow. Supper at noon.
Feed at noon, and
Thanks,
Martin
Martin.
is our arena director.
Daniel, you have an issue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. 48 Hours has done a story on my niece Jermaine Charlo, and it is set to air this weekend. And I was really clear when I spoke with 48 Hours that anything that I've stated in I guess their show that they'll broadcast are my views and my opinions only, and not the opinions of CSKT. So just wanted to let you know, yeah, those are mine, and I didn't speak on behalf of the tribe in that in the interviews with 48 Hours.
Thank you,
That's
Daniel.
All right, thank you.
James, are the issues you have for open?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they'd be for open.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. One is I kind of was frustrated a little bit with the Corville property. I thought we had buy sell and stuff, all that ready to go. And I guess we hadn't, for whatever reason, no blaming anyone, but for whatever reason, they got another offer. So we have to go through the real estate agent, go offer another number to those folks. So they've got another interested buyer in that piece of property. So that's that one. The other one is I had a call from tribal elder Yvonne Grenier. She had been working with the lands department, and she said that the lands department had brought in her issue for selling one allotment, to prove the sale of one allotment. She's using the funds to help put a roof and such on the old Morjo home there in Arlee. So she's been requesting that if we could have the lands department bring that issue up in the next lands committee meeting so we can get that approved for her. All right, thank you.
Thank you, James. I think that's all the open issues. We'll go out of regular back into executive. We've got Cody Buckwich. Okay. Morning, Cody. Casey, Jordan. Yeah. Cody, your issue's up.
Good morning. Yeah. Gajos Mishishti, Cody Goklish, members of the tribal council and people of the audience, Cody Goklish with the water measurement program. And here before you today to request tribal council action to approve a joint funding agreement with the United States Geological Survey. So fiscal year 2025 will mark the 42nd year that this agreement has been in place and benefits the tribes immensely in terms of training, water measurement for natural flow streams, for water supply forecasting, as well as implementing and maintaining in-stream flow rights, particularly on the Clark Fork and Lower Blackfoot River. So this is oh, scared me there. So this is a non-competitive sole source agreement that the USGS puts in place. There we go. And seeking approval for fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $44,000. On page 6, you will see the cost share agreement split between tribes and the USGS. And excuse me, I forgot to mention Casey Ryan is with me today, just for additional information if needed. So, yeah.
Thank you, Cody. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is like absolutely critical. This has been the basis of our water rights measurements and expressing our ability to accurately and use the absolute best and what everybody agrees to is the way to measure water, the techniques, the certifications, et cetera. I benefited from it when I worked for Water Resources and became certified in doing stream flow measurements, snow survey measurements, et cetera. It's the basis of all of our water rights as far as this, and they've been a great partner. USGS has been an outstanding partner in the training of our employees through the last 40 years. And I just can't say anything bad about it. It's a critical mission. So I fully support this.
That is a motion.
Motion?
Second by Martin. All in favor?
Yes.
We're good.
Thank you.
Go get the money, Cody.
Will do.
Thank you. So we can have a break for a couple minutes and then Ruth will be up. Yeah, so 10 minutes. Lynn will be back quick. Daniel and James on, so we do have a form in place. Morning, Ruth. Morning, Greg.
Good morning. Looks like we are on page 9.
Modification 2.
Yeah, page 9, modification 2. I know, barely 10 days in, we're already modifying. So we're going to add in the amounts that are now allocated for contracts and grants. Those are ones that they'll increase all year long because there's varying periods of award for contracts and grants. So we want to bring in the first amount in FY25. We had some awards in BIA Compact. In late 24, we get the final 477 program amounts. So that's what's reflecting that 159,000 amount right there. Also, a decrease in the general fund because it's going to offset that award that we got for the tribal justice support. And that is the gist of all of that. The total net increase, 7,133,860. Now total allocations or total appropriations will be 224,086,771. Table that looked weird.
Motion by Tom, accept mod 2, 2025. Do I have a second by Danielle, or do you have a comment, Danielle?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? We are unanimous with Lynn out of the room.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. We looking at executive break?
There's three things left on my part of the agenda today. There's a discussion with EKI about an agreement with Bank of America. There's a water compact resolution, and then there's the audit presentation. So we can stay in open session, and if you'd like to go to the water compact, I'm trying to buy them time so that Brian and his group, I'm trying to be mindful of time and stay on schedule. I don't know if he's in the lobby yet, but I want to be mindful of your time and perhaps prioritize maybe the water compact resolution. And then we can go into EKI and the audit, if that's
Sounds
fine
good.
with you.
Sounds good.
If you have the water compact resolution, oh, it's right here. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Right. Water compact resolution begins. Sorry about this. Is it on the bottom? Forgive me. Thank you all. Right, so on your screen is the letter that accompanies the resolution, and this is the fiscal year 2025, or the fifth allocation of water compact dollars. And so on an annual basis, the tribes affirm to Pamela Williams, the director of the Secretary of Indian Water Rights Office, the intentions of the tribes during the upcoming fiscal year to receive the 90 million into the SKQ trust, and then to divide it between the compact and the implementation trust accounts. I have conversations on a weekly basis with the doer group, and the amount of money does not exceed if it were to be divided in half, 45 million into compact and 45 million into the implementation settlement account, it would not disrupt the balance between the current needs in Section 7 activities and the growth for the long-term needs in the settlement implementation fund. So my recommendation again this year is for it to be divided 50-50, and this matches the prior year decisions or discussions by council.
Questions? Entertain a motion to allocate the compact money half and half. Motion by Tom, second by Bing. All in favor? That's the.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Carol. Unanimous with Lynn out of the room. So we're waiting for Brian for the other two discussions?
The next discussion, which I've loaded up here, is on page 13, which is the discussion about an amendment number 13 to the loan agreement with Bank of America. I'll have Brian run through the presentation with you. He should be. I can send him another email. And my expectation is that should be or would be an executive session to discuss some of the inner workings of EKI's agreement with Bank of America.
Go ahead, Tom.
While we're waiting for Brian, could I ask Greg a question about the, do we know, I know there's been at least maybe one order of the SST vault toilets maybe through wildland rec program for their own use, but do you know if anything for the skate parks and the basketball courts have gone through yet?
I don't know if the orders have gone through yet. I know that my understanding is that's being coordinated by Lands. And I didn't speak with Tony this morning about this subject, but it is one of my follow-ups with Tony to make sure those are being completed and anticipated in all the areas. So
when I talked to Mark on Saturday, they hadn't been done yet in Lands. Thank you, Greg.
I'll make sure to have an update by the end of the day today. Remain flexible. Yes, sir.
Out of regular into executive. And Martin indicated he would make the motion. Motion by Martin to accept the subordination agreement as presented. Second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous.
Favor.
Thank you, Carol. And now
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
I will, I'll step away. Greg, I'll work with you on getting this signed by Mike, and we'll get it off to B of A. You guys have a great day.
Yes, Chris Patakis with REDW.
So we're back into executive?
We're back into.
And I would entertain a motion to accept the audit. Motion by Martin. Second by Bing. All in favor?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I think we're unanimous. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you all for your time this
Thank
morning.
you, Chris.
I don't see Charlene on here, but make sure you thank her and extend that to her as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, if they tie down your hands, can you talk? I was just wondering, your hands are always moving when you talk, always.
Oh, yeah, it's the Greek in me. I get that a lot. I'm sorry. I was like, these guys have asked that before. Sorry, I was late on the take on that.
Well, enjoy your weather in Albuquerque.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'll follow your lead if you want to take a short break, but the next part is just a 10 or 12 slide presentation on the travel policy, just to make sure that we're talking about what happens in a pre-travel, post-travel, and some best practices to make sure that we can all be on the same page. I'll have Catherine Jackson join us if you'd like.
Do we need a break or just go? Jen.
And they're gonna do a quick little training too, because you guys are all going on travel next week to that field trip. So we wanted to use this as your guys is getting into on-base.
Go ahead, Greg.
I'm going to raise Catherine here and have her join us in just a few minutes. So I'll share my screen and begin.
Started. So what is the purpose of wanting to change the travel process?
So part of it is rooted in the resolution 8, which is the tribes adapting to activities that contribute to climate change or global warming, or the paper process. We have a paper process that's in triplicate where we print that paper. We were looking for ways to streamline the process, and that's a sliver of the component. The other thing is that we want to use technology when we can to make sure that when you want to travel, you can communicate those things directly with JBlue or Jennifer. They can complete that travel request form, and that it can follow in an electronic format, much like an agenda request. It'll travel electronically from the initiator to the traveler. And then when you return, they'll be able to add those documents to that reconciliation process to close the loop on a travel activity. That's principally the change. The other part of the change is developing a little bit more accountability in the field. We have men and women who are employees who are traveling and who are provided with funding up front for those travel activities. Staff that are traveling, they provided with the funding, and then they don't have receipts. They can't show that they've used those dollars to do those accomplishments. We've had travelers come home early and they've failed to reimburse the tribes for funds that they've already received. We believe that good accountability includes the ability to receive money from the tribes and to be accountable for it, and then to close the loop at the end. We also see new technology, people being able to take photographs of their receipts when they're on the fly, attach those receipts to their work, and for that to come back. We're also really interested in making sure that if the traveler isn't responding to their manager or their department head and is holding funds that are from a program or precious tribal resources, that we have the ability to give them 2 whole work weeks to provide those receipts. And then we want to hold them accountable by having the department head have the choice to ask us to garnish their wages. That's always been a request at the bottom of the travel sheet. Do you want to pay us back, or do you want us to just garnish your next paycheck? That's always been a choice. And the more we looked at that, we wanted to make sure that we're holding our travelers accountable and making sure that there's a good uniform way in which to do that.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, Greg. Because I'm pro paperless also. And I'm all about accountability. In regards to utilizing the internet and such, how are we protected if the system crashes or something, you know? You don't have to answer that right now. Okay,
It's a good question.
I'm just thinking out loud because if something were to happen nationwide, we all know if people go after the grid, then anyway, I'm just thinking out loud. So
I'm glad you brought that up. I think I've told council on a couple of occasions that we are actively doing training on a monthly basis. And one of our training engagements is actually with the IT group to talk about best practices, how to avoid fraud, how to make sure that we're not opening emails that open up the organization to fraud and mismanagement. I think, Mr. Dolson, there was one flying around that said, please reimburse us for Mr. Dolson's travel in the amount of $35,000 or something like that. And every hair on our neck stood up. Did you enjoy the trip? I beg your pardon, sir. But all of a sudden, our hair stands up on our neck, and I want to continue to have the men and women in those positions of financial accountability to have their gut talking to their head. And so we're going to have some IT training on how to protect our electronic data like that.
That was referenced as a training.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what training it was. Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. Yeah. So, sorry, I was just getting some grapes. I think I missed a few things that you said. So all of this now is going to be electronic. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Cause like when I get back from travel and I get the little tiny receipt from parking, it's so little. And I'm always afraid I'm gonna lose it. And then,
I didn't know if JBlue told you, as soon as you guys get those, all you guys have to do is take a picture of it and send it to us, and we use that as a receipt.
yes,
Okay.
and I started doing that. But there've been, I think twice, maybe once or twice, I took a cab and they won't give you a receipt, a paper receipt anymore. Some of them don't. they'll say it's electronic. And so I have it texted to me and then I never got the text. So I didn't have a receipt for like, at least one time, I think in Washington DC. And I looked on my phone, I looked on my email, and I did not have a receipt for that. But the guy said, well, you know, and then how can you track down a cab driver in Washington DC or whatever? So that's like one issue is sometimes like they'll try to send you they'll want to send you an electronic receipt. Anyway, and then so then our trip report. So every time I go on a trip, like if I go to a meeting, I mean, I participate in every meeting I attend on the tribe's behalf. I say something. I actively engage in everything. I don't just like spend tribal dollars to go sit into a meeting and say nothing. I always bring something back. I contribute something to the meeting on our behalf. And so so everything, our trip reports will all be electronic. That part too, like what we did there. Okay.
So in a minute here, you'll meet Catherine Jackson, who is assumed the role of our AP and AR manager. Chloe left us at the end of September, but left us in a great spot. She had the opportunity to mentor and coach Catherine over these past 5 months. There's a training that had gone on a couple of times with the men and women in the field who are principally responsible for creating these travel documents. There's also a recording on the intranet that can be used to go back. So we're providing that training and communication. This today is a high-level communication about initiating travel, what happens after travel, and some best practices. At my heart, I believe it's easier to hold the field and travelers accountable if that messaging is consistent from the top of the organization to the bottom. So that's where I appreciate, Ms. Finley, your comments about we can't always get a receipt. We trust that those circumstances will exist, but also it's easy to define your travel and movements by saying I couldn't have gotten to the hotel, to the restaurant, or to the meeting site any other way. And so there are reasonable explanations for those workarounds. But by and large, there's a gap in accountability that we're trying to close in the field.
I agree with that. I mean, and I've worked for organizations that had stricter travel accountability. Like you had to bring back a program if you said you had a meeting. You had to have proof that you attended the things you said you attended at whatever meeting. You couldn't just say like it eliminated, there was no possibility that you could go to a conference and just like sleep in and like go play golf. Like
Bring your
you had to have
agendas, your
evidence.
sign-ins, evidence. Huh?
Yes, so I have worked for organizations like that.
So here's slide 1. It's the outline. You'll have this in your packets and we can refer back to it along the way. We think that planning plays an important part, and planning, helps us see, for example, if we're entering the new fiscal year, if you're a member of a group or a board, or if you have planned travel throughout the year, we'd like to get that engagement set up as soon as possible so that we believe planning helps us save tribal dollars. We can get better cost flights, and making those adjustments at the last minute sometimes becomes more costly. And we believe that planning ahead makes the process smooth. The travel voucher puts funds in your hand for the expected activity. And the expectation is that you use those funds and collect receipts along the way. I believe that we've seen instances where there are men and women who will receive the travel voucher funding up front and then use a corporate or a business credit card and submit those credit card receipts for reimbursement. And what we're seeing in that is kind of a something out of whack, where the tribes front the money to the traveler and then they use a business credit card when they're out in the field. And so in essence, they're retaining the cash. It's a double dip, in my opinion, there. So that's something else. And if we look forward into the year, if you're assigned to a group, I know Mr. Dolson, you were in the negotiated rulemaking and had several trips back and forth. We love the fact that some of that, or maybe all of that, was reimbursable to the tribes, but we want to plan ahead and get those on the calendar as early as we can. I added a line there we don't have to skip back. I like to think about, I challenge my teams to spend money like it's your own money. Yes, sir.
Are we going to continue to use Navigator Travel, or do we have the option just to call the airlines and set those flight arrangements ourselves?
In the short term, I would ask you to please continue to use Jennifer as the principal hub for those types of travel arrangements. We are actively looking to find an alternative to Navigator Travel. We are considering whether or not that is something that we can bring either in-house, or I've engaged with Jordan on the discussion about, is there another plug-in device or plug-in app that can be used for that? I do know, I was looking to see if Jennifer was over there nodding. I do know that we are actively seeking an alternative to Navigator Travel. Oh, have you not done this before? Hey, welcome.
Welcome. All right, so this is where you'll be able to request the travel. So you'll go to the intranet. Under quick links, you will then select the travel request. From there, you can attach your agenda, enter in your name, email, destination, and then any comments that can help the bookkeeper that's going to create the travel for you be able to enter that incorrectly the system.
And so when this form is completed by the potential traveler, there's a financial support person that in this case would be Jay Blue or maybe Jennifer that will pick this form up and help complete the next steps, getting this onto the next process.
We have Martin, he's kind of trying to do it right now. Can you guys show him where it's at?
Sure, just one question. So, is this applicable, Catherine, if we go off reservation, like just for a day trip to Missoula, do we have to fill this out? Okay.
Yeah.
Anything we want compensated for? Okay.
Do you want to share your screen, sir, or okay. Would you like for us to do this in a one-on-one engagement as soon as we're done here? All right. So this is really a reminder about the post-travel reconciliation. So remember the upfront funding causes there to be a per diem and maybe some expected travel expenses to be front-loaded into the compensation that is received in a pre-travel. We estimate parking, we estimate taxis, we estimate baggage, we estimate the per diem. And so when we have the reconciliation process, the expectation is that the receipts match what those expected costs were. And we have an example here. If you received $50 ahead of time for parking and your parking receipt was 50, then we're balanced. If it's off by, above or beyond, then either the tribes will be paid back or the tribes will need to provide additional, because sometimes that parking expense is in addition to that. Yes.
They each have their own credit card. So normally in their travel, all we do is their mileage and their food. The rest of it, they come back to me with the credit card receipt.
I'm happy with that. This will also be used in the field training.
One thing I became aware of just in the last travel was that travel days are only compensated for 75% per diem rather than full per diem. Is that right? Yes. But we're doing full on travel days too? Okay.
So if we have a good system in place with Jennifer to collect those receipts, take pictures of them, if they're on your credit card, that's wonderful too. Make sure we get those receipts. Some of the best practices, and I think they're part of the next 2 or 3 slides. We love pictures. We love the ability to grab your phone, and if you are provided with a receipt getting out of that cab, to take that picture at the moment, and then you don't have to put it in I beg your pardon?
And one thing you can do is you can actually go Uber or and connect your council credit card to your Uber account and just use that. And there's always a receipt.
Are y'all familiar with that? Okay.
No, that's the beauty of it.
That's
It's
the beauty,
all,
yeah.
it's all a card transaction. And so it's so much, yeah, the convenience of an Uber or a Lyft is crazy.
So we're encouraging staff, and we'll encourage you to continue to take pictures with your phone and just upload those. And I think Jennifer mentioned JBlue is happy to collect those as you're traveling, so that if you want to just slide them in, I'll happily do that. So the field will, on the screen here, the field will upload their receipts into the on-base document and then submit it for reconciliation. That's the closeout step. It's taking those receipts and attaching them to the on-base. We have a little graphic here. If you can do that by phone, you can scan them in at your workstation when you get back from travel. But that's some of the adjustments that are happening. Keep your receipts. Keep your receipts. If you're doing it on the corporate credit card. Yes, sir. You have a question?
So all the reconciliations goes to JBlue and he finalizes all that. All we do is the request.
Yep.
She said, yep. So for example, I just got back from travel. I have some receipts. You know, for practice, I'd like to just send them to JBlue. That's no fun. And upload them.
We're happy to do a reconciliation with you on this trip and make sure that it comports with what the front end was like. Was it done on the on-base system, or was it done in the old system?
It was the first ever on-base one that I've ever done.
The maiden voyage.
It was. I couldn't even find on-base, to be honest with you. So, to be honest with you, like, to get to our intranet, you can CSKT /. I mean, that's the kind of like literal, you know, explain it to me like I'm as old as I am.
Today I learned. We'll take care of helping you with this reconciliation process. So the new forms are going to be rolled out, have been already rolled out. We expect programs and travelers to be using this. We've provided 8 work days or 2 weeks to provide for the field to provide those receipts for their travel. We've allowed the department heads to decide how fast or how much of a issue they want to make collection of this. We want to hold our staff and travelers accountable, and the department heads will have that responsibility of deciding whether or not dereliction or not paying attention to that, if that ultimately results in a garnishment of wages. But we'll work with each department head to make those, to implement those as they see fit in managing their departments.
So I really like the advanced thing where you know you're going to go to this thing and it's 6 months away. It's already scheduled, and can we possibly get the best discount airline ticket because we have that knowledge rather than wait till the last 2 weeks before the conference and get screwed over on the extra cost for a ticket. So that due diligence then for that type of a thing will be the responsibility of the department head.
The due diligence should be on the part of the line supervisor who's coordinating that travel. When I think of my teams, I don't see a lot of travel. We try to do that particularly remote. But we see travelers going to and from Las Vegas. That seems to be a hub of travel and work there. I don't really particularly care about the destination as much as it's usually not a surprise for a convention or for the res event or whatever that might be. It's not a surprise. So we're relying on the program managers who are going to ultimately expense that travel and are going to ultimately manage the absences from the desks. We rely on them to look into the future and say, hey, we're going to have 2 or 3 people out this weekend or this period or this. So we're relying on them to think ahead.
So if they're part of the guilty party though themselves, shouldn't we set up some type of criteria, some gross level of responsibility? Because in my previous experience, some of those folks were the worst ones, the ones that should be responsible for that.
Department heads and leadership planning at the last minute to make those. Okay.
Or program managers or whatever. I mean, that first line, I mean, well, I got enough money or whatever, I remember before it was like, hey man, you guys are going to get overextended because of this. And then, but I don't know.
I included a line in here, spend the money like it's your own money.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I dislike the idea that of spending other people's money, even a grant or another funding source. That doesn't sit well with me. So I want to be alerting council that this is the messaging that we're going to be taking to the field and continue to take to the field. And we want them to plan ahead and walk me through what you might think where would we challenge a department head or a division travel that's scheduled within 14 days, or should be travel scheduled before 14 days, or what would
Mr. Chair, I think that, there's, I'll reflect back to my experiences and not that these were guilty, but examples of where if your program has an entity or part of their function that they're required to participate, say for recertification, or it's a professional organization that you should be going to learn everything, and it's an annual effect, then I would expect that would be something that should be, done the most efficient way possible. And, I don't know what that would be if it's at least 3 months out.
We have a self-governance conference every year annually, and we already know it. I think the next one is in April. And getting hotel rooms ahead of time and airfare ahead of time, we usually take at least 3 people to the self-governance conference. So something like that. Hi, Jennifer.
So I have a question, like if you're going to a conference that you would normally fly to, but for some reason you want to drive there, like Seattle. And let's say it's cheaper to fly to Seattle, but you say, well, I don't want to fly, I want to drive because I'm going to bring my kids or whatever, and my 5 dogs, something. So how do you, then what's the process for that? Because then you wouldn't want to pay someone mileage to Seattle. So I just went to Wolf Point and I had an $800 mileage check, and the state reimbursed the tribe for that. But it was I was like, what? I mean, it was a lot of mileage to drive to Wolf Point. And that's like a 10-hour drive, but you can't fly to Wolf Point. I had to drive. And so Seattle, it's about the same distance. So how do you handle that? Do you reimburse people saying, okay, well, this is the average cost of your flight. This is what we'll reimburse you. We're not going to give you $1,000 mileage check or whatever.
Your explanation B was correct, which is the average cost of that flight. The least expensive to the organization is the reimbursement amount.
Then do some people do that? They'll say, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to drive anyway because I'm going to take my family and we're going to drive to Seattle or whatever, drive to California or something like that.
Yes, that's what we let them do, but not at the higher amount. Personal choice doesn't trump the most efficient method of travel. It occurred to me maybe we can have some of the programs that have planned travel include those as items in their annual work plan. It was just, you mentioned the April event, and I thought maybe we can add that as a line item to work plans? And is there any intended travel and what are the expected periods? I just want to reflect that that's something I think we can add.
Don't.
Yeah, one question that I always wondered about on the cheapest thing, and I don't know what the comparison is between personal vehicle reimbursement versus Uber or taxi. I just assume personal vehicle was cheaper. And I don't know that. And I don't know if there's a different locations. And so sometimes we compare, used to do it back where, of course, Jen knows this too, but sometimes there isn't, when you go to the nearest airport, there is no shuttle service or anything to get to your destination. And so you have to use a taxi or use an Uber, but it doesn't seem to be part of the cheaper program. It doesn't seem to be that, maybe that's missed sometimes. Anyway, I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but it's sometimes it would argue that the personal vehicle might be cheaper all the way around, and considering the full complexity of getting to your destination. If there's not, like, the motel doesn't have, shuttle service to their convention. And example, the last one Martin and I just went to, there was no, you could not get, they don't provide that shuttle service. So you're either going to use a taxi from the Portland airport or an Uber to go whatever the distance was up to Ridgefield, Washington. And so I don't know if that's part of the factors for the cheapest way to go or not. I don't know. Question for Jennifer and Jay Blue, I guess. It might be the personal car was a cheaper way to go and get the full mileage.
Tom, you can always travel by car. I just know.
Well, this goes to being a handicapped person, is that our process discriminates. So I just hate, I can't walk the distance through the airports. So for me to travel and feel comfortable travel, I need to drive. And so it costs me personally then to drive. I'm not even taking anybody with me, but it just costs extra and to travel. So that's a consideration also. But I'm fine with that. Because if I really want to go do it, I'm gonna go do it. I'll probably pay for it out of my own pocket to go, the whole thing. But anyway.
Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom, because even when we were at the self-governance conference in Phoenix, you could see the conference hotel from our hotel, but it was absolutely not feasible to walk there because it was overpasses. Like, you could not walk there. So you either had to take a cab or Uber or whatever to the conference. It was probably like a 10-minute drive. But Brian Upton rented a car, and that made our lives so much easier, and he transported us every day. And so, there might be some instances where it might be cheaper to rent a car. So when I was in North Carolina, and I think Bing went to a conference at Cherokee, North Carolina also, I did not rent a car. I just got there and I got an Uber, and it was $400. And they told me, they said, it's expensive to take an Uber out to Cherokee, and it's the only way to get there. And sure enough, I'm like, I was thinking expensive. I thought it would be like $100. And when I ordered up the Uber on my phone, I was like, what? I thought it was a typo. Like, it cannot be that expensive. It is that expensive. And then on the way back, I got a ride from a guy who rented a car. So one of the other tribal leaders is like, hey, I'm going to go to the airport today. I'll just give you a ride. So basically, he saved the tribe $400 back. But I think on that, it would be cheaper to rent a car rather than spending $800 in Uber if I had to take an Uber back, which I did not.
I actually found out there's quite a difference between Uber, Lyft, and a basic taxi in DC. I was trying to get from the hotel to the airport, ordered up a Lyft, and it was going to be $35, and it was going to be a 40-minute wait, and there was a taxi there, so I took the taxi for $18 rather than the $35 for the Lyft.
I always take taxis in DC too, because Uber has a hard time finding your location in DC. and I was late for something because my Uber driver couldn't find me. And then I talked to someone else at the same meeting and she said, no, that there's something with something with Uber in DC. They will often do that. If they can't find your hotel, she said it's more reliable to take a cab there. So anyway, so like car rentals in some places, it's gonna be cheaper for the tribe if you rent a car and then drive out. Cause there's no other way to get there.
We were anticipating visiting Gila River and Chin when we went to Phoenix. Is one of the major reasons we did rent the car that time, and that definitely made a difference. Jennifer,
Can we go into executive for the training portion so we can put information up on the screen?
we will go out of regular into executive. That's the agenda, right? Shay Hoy.